the more inefficient the economy becomes, which means the higher the chances that the government's going to have to do more, because that's why we get into these constant stimulus cycles, because they never stimulate a private recovery. So you get economy falls down, government spends a bunch of money, it's inefficient, it's wasted, it distorts the economy, makes it more inefficient, which means the economy is going to continue to be rough and bad and well below potential, which only means the government's going to do more, which causes even greater harm and then leads to more government intervention and then greater harm. That's why we've been in this constant government spending, low interest rate cycle over the last 15, 16, 17 years, because it doesn't solve the problem. It just leads to the next inevitable government intrusion.
Do you think this blows up with the sort of the bond market and concerns about deficit, or is this more sort of have to be through voting and change from government? How do you see this happening?
Yes, sadly, the idea of bond vigilantism is, I mean, it's understandable where that comes from. I don't think there was ever bond vigilantes to begin with. But what has been shown emphatically over the last couple of years is that no matter how ridiculous and how insane, especially the U.S. federal government has become, there is demand for the treasury market, treasury debt that comes out of it, which raises a whole bunch of issues that I wish more people would try to understand and appreciate. If there is overwhelming demand for safety and liquidity, and I understand that it doesn't seem like treasuries should be safe and liquid, but when we talk about safety, it's really about the liquidity aspects more than the credit profile of the issuer. So the demand for U.S. treasuries seems to be there, regardless of the deficits and the amount of deficit spending, which should be an alarm bell that rings in your head, as we were talking about before, going back to the 2010s. Overwhelming demand for safe investments and safe instruments is not a good sign. And the thing is that politicians in Washington have figured this out. It took them a long time, but they finally figured out that the bond market in the state that it's in will buy as many treasuries as they want to issue. So there really is no constraint on the federal deficit. Now I'm not advising this. I'm not saying this is a good thing. What I'm saying is we need to understand that this is the case. As long as the bond market demands safety and liquidity because of the economic climate and some financial risks as well, then the government can continue to borrow and borrow and borrow as much as we want. That's the Japanese example. We're following the Japanese path almost exactly. And what that means is, as you were saying, Anthony, the solution to that is we got to stop looking at the treasury market. I know people say this all the time. The treasury market's going to blow up. The government's going to issue so much debt that treasuries won't be able to absorb it. Well, we've seen that in practice. Over the last couple of years, the amount of deficit spending, the amount of debt that has been raised over the last couple, it's just mind-boggling. Outside of any type of emergency, we've gone completely insane. Yeah, but where are interest rates? Interest rates today are lower than they were 2 years ago, which tells you that the deficits did not matter. What did matter is demand for safety and liquidity. So the only way to put a stop to this is at the ballot box. We got to stop thinking the treasury market's going to blow up, because it's proven time and again that it's not, that the demand for safety and liquidity is the overriding factor, fundamental prospects and fundamental valuations and interest rates. And that means that any chance to stop the government from continuing to harm the economy through its reckless fiscal spending, it has to be a political solution, not a market solution.
Yeah, which doesn't seem well. There's lots of rhetoric about it, but we'll see if any of that actually follows through, or if the people are voted in.
You know how this is, man.
Yeah.
I mean, politicians, it doesn't matter what party you are. This is not a partisan issue. Both parties are equally bad. Well, maybe not equally bad, but both parties are legitimately bad. And politicians want to buy votes. I mean, let's face it, that's what they wanted. I mean, the safest route to re-election is to buy the electorate off. And since politicians have figured out that they can borrow as much as they like, given these circumstances, they don't care about the economy. They don't care that it sucks and it's getting worse for most people. They're only looking out for themselves. And so they have this ability to buy votes and gain power through their increasing budgets. They're going to continue to do it. There is no appetite on either side to address these deficits. And so I know what people, I mean, the entire idea of inflation, as well as rising interest rates and really soaring interest rates, was one of those ways in which you think, okay, this has to come to an end. There has to be a way to get Washington, to rein Washington spending in. They're going to break the treasury market. They're going to unleash a 70s style inflation again. Something in the marketplace or the economy would have to adjust, or would have to be broken by the way in which the federal government is behaving. And so the last, really going back to 2008, 2009, we've been hearing these constant assurances or constant forecasts that the treasury market's going to blow up. There's got to be a limit to how much debt the government issued. Inflation has to come, and it's going to be worse than the 1970s because of what's happening in Washington. And year after year after year, that never happens because those problems are not primary in the marketplace. And yes, the prices did go up in 2021 and 2022, but that was the supply shock, not because there was too much debt issued. As I said, interest rates are going lower despite the fact that all the market debt that has been issued, or all the debt's been issued in the marketplace. So the fix to this is a political fix. Somebody has to have enough what would be the word? Enough lack of outside of self-interest. I mean, that's really what politicians are doing. They're vote buying. They're gaining power. They're increasing their budgets for their own self-interest. So you have to have somebody who's not going to get caught up in all of that stands apart from it and says, yeah, we need to fix this and make this a major issue that the voting public can latch onto. Because right now, voters are just as bad as politicians. There's no appetite among the electorate to tackle these fiscal problems when there really should be. And part of the issue is, as we were just saying before, because nobody connects the dots here. The economy gets bad. Nobody says, well, the government spending is a part of it.